All right, what's up, everybody? It is our first episode of 2022. So, you know what it is. It is Sister Conversations in
In
Black,
black.
season two.
Go.
Two, we in season two. Last year, y'all really supported us. We appreciate
Thank you.
everything. And so, I'm just so excited for us to be back. I'm telling you, this is a brand new season. We probably gonna make a lot of people more mad, more frustrated, more pissed off. But oh well, we gonna have a conversation that nobody wanna have, and we gonna keep it real. We gonna be honest. At the end of the day, this is my sister and I's viewpoint, our dialogues. This is all about how we relate when we're talking about real life issues and those hard topics. One thing I'm really grateful for with our relationship is we talk about the hard stuff. We talk about the stuff that you really don't want to talk about. We have no worries about is my sister gonna think something wrong with me? Is she gonna think I'm prejudiced? Is she gonna think, so it's a judgment free zone, and we're human, so sometimes we make some mistakes, sometimes we get into it, sometimes we don't agree, and all of that, but we know how to resolve that and come back together and get on one accord. So we hope, as always, that Sister Conversations in Black helps you to have these hard dialogues in your circle of influence with your friends, with your family, and your loved ones, so you can stop holding things in, talk, and come to an understanding. Now, today, our episode, the first episode of the year, season 2, episode 1, is Wilma versus Shera. Oh my God. Now, if you grew up like in the era that we grew up, you know who Shera is. Shera is He-Man's cousin, okay? And she literally was a female version of He-Man. I wanted to be Shera growing up. If
Yep.
you also understand who Wilma was the wife of Fred Flintstone. He
Yep.
was not smart at all, but he was big and strong. But Wilma was that beautiful, kind housewife who kept things afloat even when her husband was messing stuff up.
Yep.
So, today, I'm gonna turn it over to my sister, and she gonna kick us off with them facts, and she gonna just enter us into the place that we need to go. So the floor is yours, sis. Go ahead and talk to the people.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to start with the attributes of Shera, because this is Shera versus Wilma. And as we talk about these attributes, let's just kind of see if they relate to us or we relate to them.
Well, go
okay. All right, here we
I'm
go.
scared. I'm scared.
Shera was very intense all the time.
Absolutely.
There was always a fight. She could get upset with people easily.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't necessarily a peacemaker.
Oui.
She was there to solve the problem. If you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, you didn't. But the problem was solved.
Well,
Shera was a leader.
Yeah.
She had natural leadership skills. The one thing about a leader, though, is there's never supposed to be a question that they can't answer.
Mm. Wow.
I don't remember Shera ever saying, I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. Shera had a hard time letting go.
Mm.
Shera had, it was Shera. So I can't remember who her enemy was. I know for He-Man, it was like Skeletor, but
Skeletor. Mm-hmm.
Shera had an enemy forever. She had a hard time letting go. She was a strong personality. Her enemy was Catra. And even though Catra could have been chilling and it could have been a new enemy, Shera would have been like, I wonder if Catra got something to do with this. Shera was devoted and loyal to a fault to those that she loved. I don't know too many episodes that He-Man came through to help Shera, but we're introduced to Shera through He-Man. Shera was, and this is the last one, to all those that depended on her and leaned on her, she was strong and never weak. Never. So put a pin there, because we want to talk about the attributes of Wilma.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wilma was a provider. Wilma was a peacemaker. Wilma knew how to smooth things over when Fred would mess stuff up. Wilma was a negotiator for everyone. Wilma didn't have her own business. Fred and the house and the children, Bam Bam, they were her business. Her friends were her business. Wilma was weak. Wilma was strong. Wilma got tired. Wilma was lonely. Okay. Those are the attributes of Wilma.
Ooh.
They are not all bad. They are not all good.
Right.
We have the attributes of Shera. They are not all bad. And they are not all good.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is finding the balance between the two. Can you really have both, sis? What do you think?
I think so. I think you definitely can be both. I think you can be a little Shera and you can be a little Wilma. And I think, honestly, I think a healthy woman is both. It's so interesting listening to you read off the characteristics that both of these characters were known for, because I begin to think back to watching the cartoon. If when I watched that cartoon, are those the characteristics that I picked up as a child? Is that what I saw when I looked at Shera? When I looked at Shera, I did not see a lot of those things. I did see somebody who was strong. I did see a leader, but I didn't see those negative things. All I saw was Shera was just as good as He-Man. What I saw was Shera was the ruler of her area, and her cousin He-Man was the ruler in a different place. What I saw was a woman who could get the same respect and admiration that a man got. You see what I'm saying? I never looked at Shera not asking for help. I never looked at she was disappointed when He-Man couldn't come through. Because there were times when she called out for He-Man and he was not able to come because he was preoccupied in his own kingdom with his own villain. But she never looked disappointed. It's almost like she just shrugged it off, like, it's okay, then we must do it. You know what I mean? Like, that was the attitude of Shera. I look at Wilma. I definitely didn't think that Wilma was strong or weak. I thought that Wilma was a good backup player. Wilma was, as they were saying, sky high hero support. She was not the hero of any episode, but she always seemed to bring the voice of reason. There were times where Barney and Fred were upset with each other, and she would make him get out of his emotions and go fix it. So Wilma to me was hero support. But now that I'm a grown woman, I see those things in Shera and I see those things in Wilma. And I look at myself and say, as a woman, who am I? Who was I? And who would I want to be? In the past, I was definitely Shera. And then at some point, I grew to be a Wilma. But now, the healed, getting back to whole version of me, I'm both. There's a healthy balance of both. And I think that's kind of what I want people to start looking at and taking from life, is because it's always when we deal with extremes of one end or the other where we're off. And it doesn't matter which end. If you're extremely this way or extremely that way, you're off, because you should have a balance across the board.
I mean, yeah, look, we as children, we don't pay attention to those things. It was just cartoons to us.
Yes.
But I think a part of the issue is that in our culture, we are always taught to be Shera. We are always taught to be strong. Now, don't get me wrong. We are also taught to be Wilmas when we get to a certain age, because I was taught to be both, if that makes sense, at different times of my life. And so, but here's
I
the
wasn't.
thing.
I was not. It was one way for us. It was Shera.
Yeah, see, and then what I was gonna say was that here's the thing. I was taught to be both at different times in my life, but when I was taught to be both, I couldn't have the other.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I was a single young woman going to school and put myself through college, things like that, I was Shera.
Right.
Couldn't be Wilma.
Yes.
Dismissed. But when I became a wife, I couldn't be Shera.
Right.
So the merge never happened until later.
That's good. Now that's good right there.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that we're taught both, maybe non-directly or even directly in some cases, because I was taught directly. I was taught directly from my mom about Shera and directly from my grandmother about Wilma. But then the two worlds never merged.
Right.
Until later. And that is a part of our problem as Black women or women of color. Absolutely. But it's Black History Month, so I'm saying Black women. That is a part of our problem. Our worlds don't merge. You have so many women that are so hardcore that they don't apply the homemaker side. And then you have some women that are homemakers that they have no gusto,
right,
to fight.
And can I be honest? That's all about environment. It's all about environment, and this is one reason why a great chunk of Black women suffer from the Black strong woman syndrome. It's because a lot of us were raised in hostile environments. We were raised in not adequate, sufficient, or ideal environments. And because of that, your primary focus, even from a young age, was survival and self-preservation. And when you're trying to survive and you're trying to keep you together, you gotta be Shera. And I think the problem is the women in our environment understood it because a lot of them have been raped, molested, beaten, abused, controlled. You understand what I'm saying? So when they looked at us, maybe they didn't quite know how to help us, but they knew we needed to be strong to survive the things that the world had, the community had, our families had, because a lot of that stuff was going on within the family. Uncles was raping, daddies was raping, brothers was raping. And so they taught you to be strong and hard and protect yourself because of the things that they went through. And they did not know how to come out and talk to you about the rape or the molestation or how many years they were controlled by a man so he will provide or take care of the kids, and she's with a man who's beating on her because if he leaves, the kids don't have the food on the table, they don't have clothes, so they stay to so-called protect and take care of that child, not recognizing that they're doing more damage to that child by being privy to that. Then you have other women who had come from good families. Okay, come from two-parent homes where the father was there, the mother was there, they had their roles, they loved them. Maybe she taught her how to be a good wife, this and that. But that woman looks at the mother as weak because she is playing wife to this man who maybe she was supporting his dreams, supporting his career, and she maybe put hers on hold to raise that family. So, and a good example of that is Sanaa Lathan's role in Love and Basketball. When her and the mother had that altercation because the mama was ironing his clothes and picking his ties and all this stuff she was doing for the kids, doing the girls' hair and all that. And then she looked at her as she was weak, that her mother was weak because she didn't go after her dreams. She didn't do the things she wanted to do. So then you got women, Black women from that environment who either A, accept that and they just grow to be weak because they feel like that is their role to just serve that husband, to make sure that these children, and that becomes their total identity. Or you get the cross of them who doesn't want that life. They turn super independent. I don't need a man for anything. I can buy my own stuff. I can take care of myself. I don't need him for this, and that, because they don't want to become reliant or weak to a man. So we have all these different environment dynamics amongst us as a Black people, as a people of color, as a minority people of color. There are so many variations of environment that plays into those things. So I totally agree with what you're saying, sis.
I just want to say before we go into the first clip about the strong Black woman with Raji that you just spoke about, the merge that could have happened did not happen, not because of my grandmother or my mother. It did not happen because of me. Okay, because their merge had happened, but my merge didn't happen until later. And it wasn't because of them, because I saw the examples in the both of them of both worlds. But I'm going to say this, and this might make some church folks mad, but because I was completely in the church and completely done with the world, I was looking at and listening to other church women that didn't have the mesh of the two worlds. And what they were teaching me and telling me was, he can go and do whatever he wants to do. You just be at home and take it. And I had pastors, somebody gonna be mad today.
Girl, make them mad because it's the truth, and they need to stop with that bull crap. Stop teaching people that foolishness.
Because it wasn't my mother or my grandmother, because they had the best of both. It was the church that prohibited my mesh. Because when I got in the church and I got married at a young age, yes, I was looking at my mother and my grandmother, and they was where they was. But then you know that you kind of get wrapped up in your church, and you get wrapped up in your pastor, because them words, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's so deep. He know the word. At least for me, I was a hungry babe. I was willing to throw everything away in regards to the world and completely sell out. So for me, it was like this Bible and then my pastor and first lady. And I can remember her telling me one day, and I'm going to tell it, that even when you sick, your husband wants some. Even when you're sick, you better give it. That's what I was taught.
Wow.
And yeah, and my grandmother and my mother was looking at me like, and I'm like, nope, nope, no, I'm more saved than y'all. And I wasn't. But listening to him and listening to her prohibited my mesh. That's all I wanted to say. The church prohibited my mesh.
I totally feel it. But I think for me, I really have to deal with it is parents' job to teach their children.
Mm-hmm.
And as a woman or as a young woman, like even with my child, I teach my children not just about life and finances and God, but I teach them about relationships. I teach them about the mistakes that I have made, about the things that I have gone through. And one of the things that I talk to my daughter especially about is the fact that you can, whatever career you want to have, you can have that career.
Mm-hmm.
But just understand, you don't have to sacrifice getting married to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And understand also that getting married, you need to make sure you're ready for marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you still have things you want to pursue, it may not be the greatest time to get married, because marriage is a sacrifice, not just for you as a woman. It is a sacrifice even for that man. In biblical times, when a man got married, he took a year off even from his job to be able to spend time and bond with his wife. At the end of that bonding, if they were ready, they started a family immediately before he even went back to work. So imagine what kind of planning that took, because if he was going to leave his job for a whole year, I mean, he had to have saved enough to take care and provide for his family for that year. That is a sacrifice for him to stop working, to devote his time to bond with his new wife. You understand what I'm saying? So there were sacrifices that men made, and there's a sacrifice that you make as a woman when you get married, because now your primary focus is not you. It is not your career. It is not everything that you want out of life. It is what you guys are building as a family unit. It is the upbringing of children if you have children. It is the focus of the whole unit as a whole. That is a sacrifice. And so the bottom line is, if I have been taught, number one, what marriage really was about, if I had been taught singleness and what singleness is about, you understand what I'm saying? It wouldn't have had a problem merging, because I would have understood it. Now, I do agree that your church, whatever religious, because everybody don't believe in Jesus and go to church, but whatever your religious belief is, it plays a huge part in your life foundation. So if you go to a church or whatever you do, and it is teaching you things contrary to what God really ordained for life, and in the case, we're talking about the church. So we're talking about how the church would teach women that their place was at home.
A lot of them teach weakness. I'm gonna just put it out there.
And what they teach, what they call submissiveness,
and they call it submissiveness.
It really ain't submission, because true submission in a marriage is submission to one another. It is mutual respect. It is the fact that we discuss our decisions before making decisions and plans. That is the submissiveness that is talking about. It is not talking about control, which is what they teach. They teach that your husband controls you. You don't go nowhere unless he say you can go. You don't do nothing unless he's okay with you doing it. That is not what God said. But that is what
I was told that. I was told that.
You understand what I'm saying? And I know that what you're saying is the truth, because I got married at 17 years old. I didn't know anything, and I was in church, and I was listening to the church people trying to be a good wife. And when my husband was out there doing this thing, I was listening to the church women trying to get him to come back. You understand what I'm saying?
Woo!
And they did not give me no life tools. They told me to pray. Pray? That's all you got? He out there with Sheila, Sherry, Chandra. He bringing the women to church in my face, and you want me to pray? Because I'm about to blow something up in this piece. That's what I'm about to blow everybody up. You want me to pray?
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I was looking at my mama like, you ain't even all the way in the church, because my mama was telling me, girl, is you crazy? But she wasn't all the way in the church. So I'm like, my mom must be a sinner. You know what I'm saying? And then I was looking at my grandmother. She was like, that ain't right. But then I looked at her like, lady, you old. I'm just
Right.
keeping it real.
No.
The church really did.
Girl, the church did a number, and they still doing numbers.
The church does a number.
It's still doing a number on people. First of all, your pastor ain't got no business in your parish.
Right.
I said it right here. I said it. I approve this message. Come for me if you want to. You better know what you're dealing with. The pastor ain't got no business in your business.
So don't.
Because, honey, I done been in churches where they try to tell you who you can and can't marry. Okay? We'll tell you flat out, no, that's not for you. Let us, what? So you the matchmaker now?
Well, get to the clip, sis. Let's just show the clip, child.
Yeah, let's get on into it. Because, girl, I'm ready.
We can stay on that one all night. You and me both. Listen.
I say, Ouija.
Listen, and then the church folk really they started a petition.
Girl, bad. Do you hear me? Bad. I tell you, bad. All right, let's get it. And some of you actually might have seen this clip, so it'll be a good review, but it's like something we definitely need to see again. So let's go on and see it again. All right, sis, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it. Yes, it says you start a screen.
It's a booty.
Let's hope it works. Fingers crossed. And if it doesn't work, this clip is basically, and you all can look it up on YouTube, but it's basically Taraji dispelling the myths of a strong Black woman. Because even though we really didn't veer off with the church topic, because that's a part of this too. So just in case, the clip didn't work, just so you know, I'm sure plenty of you have seen it. This is a clip of Taraji dispelling the myths of the strong Black woman. And here's the thing. We really didn't veer off when we were speaking about the church, okay? Because the church is a part of the topic that we're talking about. Because the church also contributes to the cultivation of either the Shera or the Wilma. And oftentimes there isn't a balance. And I'm going to say something that may offend. If it does, it does. What I'm going to say is that there are some women in leadership that want to completely govern and rule everything and everyone without a husband or without a husband in his rightful place. But you want to tell others, ooh, I just felt in my spirit, somebody gonna get mad. But you want to tell others how to govern in their home or be the wife in the home with the husband when yours is not in his rightful place, or you're not in your rightful place,
and
functioning correctly.
Jesus be offense
Well, I just felt like somebody gonna get mad.
all around
I
me
am
every
not
day.
sent to upset you. I am coming to you as a young woman who is watching and looking at you and him. I'm looking. And I am one of those people that needs to see accountability in your life if you think you have advice for me. That's all I'm saying. As I think you should do me. Because this is how we hold each other accountable. And in honor of Black History Month, this is how we build as a race.
All right.
This is how we help one another. So I am not saying this because I've seen or this or that. I'm saying it because you are in a position and your husband is not. And the reason marriages break apart with people in the kingdom is because one or more or both parties have departed from God.
That's good. Repeat that again, sis, because that's good.
Because one or both parties have departed from God.
That's real. That's
Ain't
real.
no in between. Ain't no lukewarm. A wayward man is unstable in all his ways. You can't tell me how to be if you have not overcome.
That's right.
But we can figure it out together.
That's it.
That's all I'm saying. So that's the myth of the strong Black woman, which is why I said it's women in the church that's high and mighty and they govern. They govern and they do it well, but they can't keep a husband.
That's good.
Or their husband is a wimp.
That's good. Oh. Now let's talk about that. The husband is a wimp, got no backbone. And oh God, this gonna lead down a rabbit hole. But
I'm just saying we gotta do it.
We might as well go there. Like, and I really want to talk about this because as a woman minister, I have heard so many times before, especially if you got some power. Let's just be 100. My sister and I are both ministers of the gospel, and we're not just soft-spoken women. We are powerhouses. I'm gonna just put it like it is. We powerhouse.
Right.
Okay. The mere presence sometimes of the anointing upon our life when we're standing behind a pulpit is intimidating.
It
is. To men and women alike.
It is.
And I'm not talking about we're not being vain in this moment. I'm talking about what other people have said and the responses that we get. And you will never understand how many times people have looked at me and then looked at my husband, who was a minister as well, but he did not preach in a pulpit. His operation was totally different from mine. There would be so many people that assumed that because I was a woman preacher with that kind of power, that my husband was a weak back. Anybody who know my husband know that is the furthest thing from the truth. Okay, he had a lot to say about a whole lot, and he did not bite his tongue when he had something to say, and that just was not the truth. But women of God like myself and my sister would be demonized because we would be looked act as if we were emasculating men because of the spiritual authority we carry. However, we both not only understood the role of a husband in the home and in our life, we both were very submissive to our spouses.
Very
we much. Did not walk around like we ran them.
No.
We talked to our spouses about the decisions that were made. We didn't just go off and do what we wanted to do. We
No,
consulted our husbands.
very
But
much.
many people did not know that about us or assume that we were totally opposite because of our authority spiritually.
Yeah.
Now, that's one side of the coin. Now, there's another side of the coin that my sister just talked about. Women who do have power, authority, and or a position, because sometimes they ain't got no power, but they got a lot of stage presence and they got a lot of authority. They got a high position. And those women who think that they're all that in a bag of chips, who think that they're in such a high place that nobody else compares to them, those women who do emasculate their husbands, who
Right.
do boss their husbands around and tell their husbands what to do, where they're going to do it, and how they're going to do it, is
Right.
a totally opposite and different thing.
Correct.
But people do not reach below the surface to figure out the truth of a thing.
Right.
People deal with appearances. They will judge you based on that, and they will treat you according to what they assume. You
Correct.
understand what I'm saying? So there are good and both. And that's why even when we were talking about the myth of the strong Black woman,
Yeah.
I said to my sister, let's talk about how that has both benefited us and hurt us.
Right.
Because there are some aspects to that that benefited us personally. But then there are other aspects where we have been put at a disadvantage because of the ideas and the theology and the thought patterns people have behind the phrase strong Black woman.
Right.
Sometimes even in relationships with another Black man, a Black woman who is considered a strong Black woman
Right.
is not treated with the love or the delicacy or the care and concern that she should be, because in his mind, she doesn't need that.
Right.
She handled